Yes, hello, my beautiful friends. It is an amazing day. Let us wait for these tubes to connect themselves before we jump into our post-debate analysis, baby. It was a good night, and it was a lot of fun hanging out with you yesterday. We have a bunch of comments that we're going to get to. We were out of time last night, and we were racing through some comments, but we didn't give them their proper review. And so we'll be doing that today to say what's up to everybody. But we've got a lot of clips. I was bookmarking stuff all night and this morning so that we could run through it. And they're not happy with Tim Walz out there. A lot of comments like cringy, like JD Vance was the star of the show, talking about the body language and the demeanor. And you saw the thumbnail on the day, which I thought was perfect. It's bouncing around on X this morning. I saw it from our friend Amuse, who's awesome. And he, of course, has this, which basically crystallizes most of the night. And we had a comment about this as the debate was wrapping up. It looked like Tim Walz was not in a dominant position at all. And he kept looking over. What's he saying over there? Yeah. And he was like agreeing with him a lot. I don't think there's that much difference between us and all that stuff. And he looked a little out of place. And when you think about the number two, one of the biggest questions, not just this season, every single time you say, can the number two become number one? Can they step into that situation room, into that Oval Office and handle the task of the presidency? JD Vance delivered on that last night. For a young guy, man, he delivered. Total command. And he was looking at everybody like this. Tim Walz. Mwah. Another Tim Walz. Oh, they Walzed it. Oh, he Walzed it again. And that was a lot of the night. And so we'll go through some clips on this, but this is basically what we saw. We also had JD Vance came out with some receipts on the night. Remember this. A big issue was about immigration, and JD Vance is settling this. JD Vance brought receipts the day after the debate, posting this on X. It's got 5.8 million views, and appropriately, when the question came up about housing and immigration, JD said maybe the immigrants who are not here legally are causing some pressure on the housing market, because when they come across the border illegally, they do not bring houses with them. We're in Arizona. We don't see any houses also coming with them across. So where are they living? There's only so much housing, and it's a supply and demand issue. And so at some point, there will be more people than houses, which is what we're experiencing. So JD came out. He said, as promised earlier tonight, here is Michelle Bowman of the Federal Reserve Board of Governors, proving his point that our own government is commenting on these things. And here is a screenshot from it, federalreserve.gov. JD says, finally, from the final Federal Reserve report, they say finally, in their analysis, there is a risk that strong consumer demand for services, increased immigration, and continued labor market tightness could lead to persistently high core services inflation. Given the current low inventory of affordable housing, the inflow of new immigrants to some geographic areas could result in an upward pressure on rents, as additional housing supply may take some time to materialize. Wage growth has remained at an elevated rate, between 4 and 5%. Still higher than the pace consistent with our 2% inflation goal given trend productivity growth. Now, I have a story to share on this because I was at a networking event and there's a bunch of business owners there. And I met a woman who is starting a business, or actually has a business. And what she does is she will rent properties and she will take those properties and split the rooms. Okay, so let's say you have a 4-bedroom house. You don't really want to Airbnb it. You don't really want to rent it, whatever. She'll come in, as long as you'll let her do this, she'll come in and she'll partition all the rooms. So she'll turn your 4-bedroom house into an 8-bedroom house, or even more, maybe like 10. I was talking to her about the mechanics of it. I'm like, wait a minute, what? Fit 10 people into these places? Yeah. So then they take the living room, they divide that, and they fill them with immigrants. Now you can determine their immigration status. You can speculate on that if you want, but that's what they do, right? Because they don't have any place else to go. So you have 10 to 12 people being in a 4-bedroom house or something like that, right? Even more, depending on the rooms. She said they take the living room, split that into 2 or 3. They can split the dining room into 2 or 3. They've got 2 bathrooms. Sometimes they'll enclose the garage. I'm like, holy moly, that's a lot. And I said, the people let you do that to their properties? She says, yeah, it's fine because they're getting a lot of revenue. They're actually renting it for higher than standard market rate would be. So they can squeeze a lot out of these places. Anyways, so that is happening in many markets all over the country. And I spoke to a woman who's doing that aggressively. Any properties? I'm like, no, I don't. So this is one part that came up, and there were many more. JD Vance was also fact-checking the fact-checkers. And apparently they were not supposed to be fact-checking anybody, but we know who we're dealing with here. It's the mainstream media, and so they're dishonest folks. So this was the excerpt. You can see another 4.9 million views on this. And watch, they cut the mic off of JD Vance. And we watched this last night, but it's a good one. And so let's zoom in on this, turn that volume up so we can hear it.
And just to clarify for our viewers, Springfield, Ohio does have a large number of Haitian migrants who have legal status, temporary protected status.
Well, Margaret, but
thank you, Senator. We have so much to get to.
Margaret, I think it's important because
we're going to turn out of the economy. Thank
Margaret,
you.
The rules were that you guys weren't going to fact check, and since you're fact checking me, I think it's important to say what's actually going on. So there's an application called the CBP One app where you can go on as an illegal migrant, apply for asylum or apply for parole, and be granted legal status at the wave of a Kamala Harris open border wand. That is not a person coming in, applying for a green card and waiting for 10 years. That is the facilitation of illegal immigration, Margaret, by our own leadership.
Thank you, Senator, for describing the legal process. We have so much to get to, Senator.
Those laws have been on the books since 1990.
Thank you, gentlemen.
The CBP One app has not been on the books since 1990.
Gentlemen, the audience can't hear you because your mics are cut.
So pathetic. Okay. Because your mics are cut. Okay. So it's just the worst. And they were fact checking and they wanted to shut him up. They didn't want them to respond to it. And the immigration and border issue was a repeat issue. And I saw one from Bill Malugin on this. He came out. He's at the border all the time there for Fox. He says, CBS cut Vance's mic while he was explaining how the Biden-Harris administration has allowed over 800,000 migrants to enter the United States via the Border Patrol. Lawfully, okay, lawfully. It's whatever. You just get on there. Are you a victim of abuse in your homeland? Yes, I'm being abused right now. Great. Come to America. Hop on an airplane. We'll fly you in here for free. Do you know anyone else who is under abuse from your government? Yeah, here's all my friends. Perfect. It's BOGO on immigrants. The Biden-Harris administration started using it in winter 2023 to begin mass paroling migrants into the country by hundreds of thousands, 1,300 to 1,500 every single day. And they're all definitely legit asylees. Yes, who are in total uniformity with the intentions of the law. We know that is not true at all. Now, Tim Walz knows this is a problem. He's bragged about it. Charlie Kirk dug this one up, says that they have been filling America with migrants and bragging about it for years. Says, look how beautifully diverse things are in Worthington. There are 50 languages spoken in the school. How's that work very well? How can kids get educated if they're speaking 50 languages? Here's Tim.
We have more refugees per capita than any other state. That's not just morally a good thing. It's our economic and cultural future. This beautiful diversity we see out in Worthington when I'm there, 50 languages spoken in the school.
All right. That's Tim. Now, Megyn Kelly had a real nice response to this. She said, F you, CBS. How dare you? Tried to fact check JD, put you in your place, and you won't fight him, and you won't even let them debate. Shout out to Megyn Kelly, who is astute on that. But The point is, the debate was pretty much over from the very beginning, says Byron York. And we all caught this. Tim Walz came out and he looked a little less skittish out there. Trump's camp very happy about this. Chris LaCivita, co-manager of Trump's campaign, said he could tell what was happening immediately. Within the first 20 seconds, he knew this thing was over. Why? Because the first question out of the gate is dealing with leadership on the world stage, everything going on in the Middle East. And Tim Walz comes up on stage. He's completely right. He does not project the image of the type of leader that you want in the White House. So right then and there, that framed the whole thing. And if Tim Walz is going to be fibbing about Tiananmen Square and about his military background, if he's a knucklehead and all that stuff, do you really want him making decisions in the Situation Room? Because you don't know if it's honest or not. You don't know if it's true or not. Yeah, it framed everything. Walz's shaky start cast a pall over the night for Democrats. And even when he got better, which he did, Walz still wasn't as good as Vance. He was outmaneuvered all night long. Then there were moments where Walz inexplicably beat himself. When moderator Margaret Brennan asked him about his oft-repeated tale of the Hong Kong Tiananmen Square thing, where when he was not there, he was in Nebraska, he went into a long song and dance. I'm not perfect. I'm a knucklehead at times. He says, I will talk a lot. I will get caught up in the rhetoric. And then finally, when asked about misspeaking, he said, why didn't you just do that to begin with? Why didn't you just say, I just misspoke? What I meant was, I've been over there. I'm familiar with the culture. That's what I meant. Brennan then turned to Vance for a tough question, which concerned the harsh criticisms about Trump. And I thought Vance did a great job. Yeah, immediately. I was wrong. I bought your stupid lies in the media. I can't believe I listened to you guys. You guys are morons. Donald Trump delivered results, handled the question way better than Walz did. And he was even supportive of Tim. Tim, I think you got a tough job here. You got to defend Kamala. Oof, rough. You got to pretend that Donald Trump didn't deliver rising take-home pay, which of course he did. You got to pretend that Trump didn't deliver lower inflation, which of course he did. You got to simultaneously defend Kamala. Whew, it's rough. To all you watching at home, America, we can get back to an America that's affordable again. Good stuff. And so Walz was struggling as the night went on. JD Vance was out speaking about this in the aftermath of the debate, and he was looking and sounded good. Here's what he sounded like.
I just wanted to talk about issues, right? I saw this as an opportunity to get 90 minutes with the American people. It's an unbelievable opportunity for a person who wants to be the next vice president, and you should just make it as much as possible about substance. And one of the things I tried to do, Sean, obviously is criticize Kamala Harris's record, but also remind the American people that Donald Trump is not the caricature that Kamala Harris and the media have made him out to be, that he was an incredibly effective president for 4 years in the Oval Office, and he actually solved problems. I think most Americans, Democrats, Republicans, people in the middle, they're sick of Congress being like a high-class debating society. They actually want their elected leaders to do something to solve the country's problems. Donald Trump did that more than any person I've observed in my 40 years of being on this earth, and it was such a good opportunity for me to just make that point to the American people. We had low inflation, things were going well, the world was more peaceful, and actually, Sean, it's an easier argument to make tonight. I hate to say it, because of the incredible tragedy unfolding in Israel, which looks increasingly like it could become a broader regional conflict. Like when the world is going crap and it looks increasingly more violent, you want steady, proven leadership. That's Donald Trump, not Kamala Harris, the person who has broken the entire world. And I just tried to make that point as much as possible, man. Just make it about substance and let the American people make up their mind.
You did a good job, JD. They're not happy about it. And he delivered exactly what he needed to do. And the media is in cover-up mode for Kamala. So CBS News came out and they're fact-checking JD on the border. They said during the vice presidential debate, JD Vance claimed that Harris became the appointed border czar. They said CBS News confirmed this is false. Here's why. Now, the media is just, it's a battle over definitions. Right. Border czar, they didn't create a position called border czar, and she didn't get appointed on that with the government letterhead from Joe Biden with his signature on it or anything like that. But Joe Biden put her in charge of the border. Everybody called her the border czar. She was supposed to make it her issue. She did. She flew down there and said, don't come. No one listened to her. Everybody came. I said, what? Oh, you want us to come? She says, no, don't come. Okay, we're coming. She said, okay, fine. That's fine. All right, whatever. I tried. I gave my best, Kamala. Gave it a Kamala best. Don't come. They came anyways. All right, we're done here. Guess I go back. Where are the cocktails at? They said fact check. They said Harris was not asked to be the administration's border czar. That's been Alejandro, okay? He runs Homeland, which oversees... Thanks for describing the structure of our government. Yeah, the VP was going to be over him. You understand that? Like, from the White House. She was going to be in charge of the border. Now, Biden tasked Harris with leading the administration's diplomatic campaign to address the root causes: Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, known as the Northern Triangle. In reality, the only role close to that of, quote, a border czar was held by Roberta Jacobson. Okay, that's interesting, because CBS themselves, in their own media, called him a border czar. Derp. Here's Dustin Grage, who has been doing an awesome job just crushing the media lies on his X account, is sharing this exchange.
Quote unquote border czar. Vice President Harris was not a border czar.
Meantime, Vice President and border czar Kamala Harris facing some backlash.
What he said about Harris and immigration was not true. She was never appointed border czar.
And this will be her first visit to the U.S.-Mexico border region since she was appointed as the border czar by President Biden.
People gonna have to counter the misinformation. You already hear folks talking about the border czar. She wasn't the border czar.
Yes,
President Biden tapped Kamala Harris, Vice President Kamala Harris, to be the border czar.
That's on CBS. See that one? That was on CBS.
Now, she wasn't the border czar. That's what Republicans labeled her.
They were very critical of
ABC
Kamala
News.
Harris, especially in her role as border czar.
Now what she's up against is folks lying about her border record, calling her a border czar.
Kamala Harris, who was appointed as the border czar.
The Biden team did
Hey, that was Ron Filipkowski. He even called her the border czar.
declare her the border czar. They wanted her to work on kind of the root causes of immigration.
There has been so much criticism against Kamala Harris. She was the border czar.
Calling her sort of the border czar, which wasn't necessarily the case.
So the border, if they weren't planning to address it in a major way, do not make her your border czar. She met with some of the Northern Triangle countries, but nothing has effectively changed.
Oh, shout out to MRC and the Newsbuster crew. Everywhere you look in here, including even on this one, CBS News right there. So then they come out and then they lie about this. No, it's an official position. That's Alejandro Mayorkas' role since he runs Homeland. Thanks for the explanation.